let me tell you about one of my summer adventures. I worked for the state parks in Alaska, and they stationed me out in Prince William Sound. This is near Anchorage, but out in the water. So I was 10 days out in the Sound, on or near the water, and I had 4 days off. And to give you an idea of how remote this area was, I started my day, it took me about a day to get out to my camp. And I started the day near Anchorage. I picked up my truck and a trailer with my boat on it, and I drove it to the train station, which was about an hour and a half away in Portage. And then I would drive my truck and trailer up onto an open flatbed on the train, and we would take about a half an hour train ride. But it wasn't just any half-hour train ride. This train went through the middle of a mountain for a half an hour in a dark tunnel, which was pretty frightening. And when you get out the other end, you're in Whittier. And if you've ever been, anybody been in Whittier? Excellent. So Whittier is a tiny little town underneath a massive glacier, but it still seems to persist. So in Whittier, I would drop my boat in the water, and I would drive it out for 18 miles to get to my camp. And this was an amazing camp. I had 2 little tents, and the outhouse that I had, oh my gosh, okay, outhouse is a little exaggeration. The hole that I sat on had the best view ever. On my days off, the state of Alaska, in its infinite wisdom, realizing that I was up from the lower 48 and I was not going to spend much time out of work, gave me a place to stay in Eagle River Valley State Park. And that's near Anchorage also. And it has a beautiful visitor center, absolutely gorgeous. Windows, floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the entire valley. I didn't get to stay there. They had cabins for all the staff right behind the visitor center. Really nice cabins all set up. Yeah, I didn't get to stay there either. Behind the cabins was a nice open grass field where I got to pitch my tent for the summer. And that's where I stayed. I got to know the staff there pretty well, and when our days off coincided, we would spend time together and go off on some adventure. And one such adventure was a hike over the pass that came into the valley. And it was just an short overnight hike. And we were dropped off on the other side and hiked back into the valley. And everything in Alaska is big, everything. I mean, the outdoors is big, the trees are big, the bears are big, everything's big. So we start our hike. Well, this hike was actually pretty big too. It was an overnight hike, but it was a 26-mile hike that started at sea level and went up over a pass that was full of snow and had a glacier, and then back down into the valley. It was probably about 3,000-foot high pass. This was our little overnight deal. So we start off in this lush, warm, summer, sunny valley. And we're hiking up this really steep trail back and forth. And after a few hours, we're just hiking along, and we're just trudging through this trail and back and forth. And the guy in front of me, it's starting to get a little cold. And so the guy in front of me pulls his coat a little tighter, and he goes, "Oh, I'm getting cold." And yeah, it's getting a little cold. And I just, I'm not really paying attention because my calves are just screaming, and I've got this pack on my back, and I'm hiking up this hill and trying not to slip because there's all the scree from the avalanche from last winter that's on the trail, so we're just kind of making our way through it. But I stop, and I take a deep breath, and against my better judgment, I look up the mountain, the trail, and I see just this immensely steep mountain that we're climbing. And I just put my heart into it, and we're going to keep going. We slowly keep going. And as I'm looking around, I start to sense some change. I start to see some difference in what I'm seeing, and what I'm smelling, and what I'm hearing. And what I see is that the air is changing, the light is changing. It's getting thinner. It's no longer holding as much warmth. And what I'm smelling is no longer the sage and the humidity that we smelled in the lower valley, but the air is getting thinner and just with less smells. And then what I'm hearing is no longer hearing the birds and the insects buzzing, but I'm hearing the whistling of the wind. And I'm looking and I'm listening and I'm walking along, and then all of a sudden I get it. I look back down into the valley and I look up ahead, and we have just walked from summer into spring. The plants are getting smaller and younger as we go. And I turn back and I look down the valley, and it's lush and green and full of big plants. And all around me are little tiny plants. And up ahead of me is snow. And so we've left summer, we're in spring, and we're walking into winter. All in one day. And we continue up the mountain, and we walk right into winter. We're in the snow, we're trudging through the snow, and alongside this incredible glacier, and we start back down, and we do it all in reverse. We walk down, the plants get bigger, little sprouts are coming through, and then all of a sudden we're in this lush summer valley again. We walked through the seasons. So you probably remember moments when you've been lazy and laying in the summer sun, or you've woken up one morning and you smelled the crisp air and said, the seasons change. But imagine doing that all in one day and walking through that. So when you go out and walk around, be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention. Thank you.
The further you go, the greater the adventure. I'm not sure if she means a long way to go as an evaluator, as a Toastmaster, as a human being, or the purpose of Monique's speech is to tell us a story that has a moral. This is from the Storytelling Advanced Manual, titled The Moral of the Story. And we're all used to hearing stories with morals when we're children. Monique had to create an original story that had a moral. She had to entertain us while displaying that value, which was the moral of her story. Now, values are the shared beliefs that motivate our behavior. And I like saying that so we understand what we really mean. And there was clearly a shared belief there that you have to take the time to see, smell, hear, and enjoy what's around you. So she succeeded there. Obviously, it was a new story and it had a moral. So that was baked right into it. Then she had to tell it with skill. And there's a list of about 40 skills she's supposed to use while telling this story. Amazingly, she used most of those skills. I'll focus on some of the great skills that she displayed and talk a little bit about some that she might consider improving and give her a suggestion for improving the overall story and making it seamless. So she had to entertain us with either humor or drama. And she chose to try to do a little of both. I believe she could have made the dramatic twist a little more dramatic and could have built drama in a few more places using voice and changing some small details to keep us in the dark about some things that were going to occur. For example, as she's climbing the mountain and going into the seasons. I think that realizing that she'd gone through the seasons at the peak of the mountain might have made the story more dramatic, while she could have filled in the details as she stepped from summer to spring to winter. She was supposed to use imagery and voice, and she did that quite well. She didn't use a lot of inflection in her voice, but she had a very pleasing voice overall. Her tempo, her pace, those sorts of things were well. Her twist could be a little stronger. I think that suggestion that she moved the reveal to the top of the mountain would have helped with that. She used triads really well. She talked about the outdoors and the trees and the bears when she described how big it was. And she talked about seeing, smelling, hearing, and brought that sensory things in. If she crafted her opening, which was sort of, let me tell you a story, and said something like, the thing about an adventure is that you never know what to expect, that you could have helped build some drama. And then in the end, where she told us the moral of the story, she said, be aware, pay attention. I think she could be stronger there. But this was an excellent story. I loved it. I look forward to more. Thank you so much, Monique.